it will not be enough to just talk about what we are seeing on the streets, because majority of the people that are basically looting are people who are poor, unemployed, and are fed up of inequalities. Now, majority of poor people, in fact, our country has got a bad tendency whereby the poor and the vulnerable, they are the easiest scapegoats. I can assure you, Mr. President, or you can assure us, majority of the people are already arrested now are basically those kind of people. A person who went out just because there was something, there was looting, and they got bread and milk. The people that were killed, I think the Minister of Defense also spoke about someone who was killed in Tembisa. Next to that person, there was a loaf of bread and some milk. Therefore, we can't have a very, very harsh and hard approach to the problem, whereas majority of the people that are currently in the streets are driven by the socio-economic challenges that they are facing. Therefore, it would be short-sighted to just focus on the people that are looting and be very, very harsh on them without dealing with the underlying problems. These underlying problems are the ones that need a proper strategy to deal with them. Therefore, any communication from the government must give that assurance about the restructuring of the economy in order to deal with these root problems. Because what might have transpired might have triggered what is currently happening now. However, if in the next year or so another thing becomes a trigger, the very same outcome will be what we are witnessing now. If we are just going to focus on the short-term or short-sighted solutions, the country will be in a difficult position for years to come. It has been reported time and time again by experts and analysts that the huge unemployment levels, the huge poverty levels, it is a ticking time bomb. Therefore, Mr. President, I want to implore you, let us not have a solution that is short-sighted. Let us not have a solution that is not looking at the deeper socio-economic problems that we are facing as a country. The second problem that we need to address, or we need the government to take responsibility of, is that the ANC internal faction fights are a risk to the stability of the state. The Minister of State Security did say that it is ANC members, senior ANC members, that are behind all of this, what is happening now. And because that is a risk to our stability, you find that now the army has been deployed to deal with a problem that has been created by the ANC or ANC members. Therefore, the question that we need to be asking ourselves, in what level will be these ANC factional fights lead to in the future? Because if now we're talking about more than 70 people dead, huge damages to the infrastructure in the economy based on something that clearly started from the ANC, what must happen next? Because now the country is a casualty to the ANC factional fights, and if that is not addressed, then you find that we as the opposition parties or the other political parties represented in parliament will be in an unfortunate position whereby we need to legitimize a consultation or consensus that has been brought about by the ANC internal squabbles, whereas the root cause of the problem starts and ends with the ANC. If the ANC does not take responsibility of this, then it means we are not being genuine when we are talking about the solutions. Now, another thing that needs to be addressed, Mr. President, it is the issue that you have spoken 2 times on Sunday and on Monday, and people did not heed your call for them to remain calm, because the duty of the government must be to make sure that when it speaks, the people must listen. And that speaks to the moral authority that the government or the president ought to have to the people. It can't be that the president will speak, but things, instead of getting better, they get to be worse. Those are the real challenges that we need to speak as to. The people, what we are seeing now is a response or is a mirror image of what is happening in government. People have been witnessing political leaders or ministers or senior members of the ANC looting one way or the other without consequence. Now the people are basically doing the very same thing themselves. Therefore, there needs to be the government or the leaders of the ANC needs to take responsibility for the mess that we're in. The other issue, Mr. President, it is the utterances of ethnic mobilization that you uttered on Sunday as well as on Monday. They are not helping the cause. It is the same thing where a person watches the media, they see looting that is happening in their little corner or in their community, wherever they may be. They will be inspired as well to do the very same thing, because what media has done, they've given life to the problem. Now, those utterances might have given life to the problem. They might be given life. That is why other people, they are making those utterances. So there needs to be wisdom in terms of how these problems are dealt with and how the communication of the problems is dealt with to avoid creating another problem whilst addressing this problem. Because the unfortunate part, if this characterization keeps on continuing, is that people, whenever South Africa continues in this path, people are going to be saying a particular ethnicity is a cause of what is happening now. We're seeing on social media, people themselves are agitated against a particular ethnicity because maybe they could be fueled by the characterization that is done by yourself or by the media. Therefore, that is why I implore you, Mr. President, that there needs to be wisdom and tact when it comes to how this thing is addressed. However, we need to also provide solutions or offer solutions. And I want to ask, Mr. President, do not call opposition parties to talk with you for you to rubber stamp that you met with opposition parties, but nothing comes out of these engagements. Let it be a genuine, because we're seeing a situation whereby there is a coronavirus on one side. On the other side, there is this instability that has lost more than 70 lives as we speak. And if this is not properly averted, then it has a potential of destroying our country. We don't have any other country that we call home. This is our only country. It is in that interest that we're here trying to offer solutions. That is why we're asking for genuine engagement, so that we know that our solutions will be taken into account and there'll be further engagements. The first thing, Mr. President, when it comes to what we're offering as a solution, is that the economic recovery that must be in response to what is happening must be small business centric. Because we know that the big businesses have got the luxury of financial reserves. They've got the luxury of insurance. But small businesses, particularly black-owned businesses, they are the hardest hit when it comes to this problem that we're facing. And it cannot be, Mr. President, that government has promised that they are going to support small businesses. However, if you look at the government spend, it is 80% on big companies, and small businesses only get 20% of the government spending. There needs to be an executive order that shows action to your commitment that indeed small businesses are going to be protected, they are going to be prioritized, because they are the biggest creators of jobs. The other advantage about small businesses is that they are owned by people in those respective communities. And whether you like it or not, people will not destroy a business that they are owning themselves. But the reason why for them, the people, they've got no issue burning down these big businesses, looting Pick and Pay, ShopRite, etc., because they are not the owners. But if it was businesses that were owned by them as the people, would have a different attitude. That is the first thing. The second thing is that I'm very much against this hard approach to such a problem. Reality, Mr. President, is that South Africa is reported to have a population of more than 57 million people. Therefore, there's not enough soldiers or policemen that can stand against the people when they've risen up. Therefore, it cannot be that the first point of departure for anything, it is the deployment of soldiers in agitating the police that they must go deal with these problems, and in a way agitate them so that they use force when dealing with the problem. Prince Buthelezi can tell us that even during those times after 1990, what calmed the people down, it was leadership. It was the leaders that went to engage with the people. I saw the Prince was in Ulundi last night at his very, very elderly age, engaging with the people. Therefore, there needs to be dialogue. In the early 90s, when Chris Hani was assassinated, there was a fear or a risk of a civil war. The first point of departure was not soldiers. Leaders took leadership, took the responsibility of leadership by going out, engaging the people. Therefore, it cannot be that the leadership that we're going to be seeing now will be limited to addressing people via Zoom or all of these people. People need leadership in the streets, particularly from the first citizen of the country. Therefore, dialogue, Mr. President, should be the most obvious first point of departure, because if people can be influenced or instigated to do whatever wrong things they may be doing, people again can be influenced to do what is right. That is why it is critical that the people that are influential, the people that have a huge significant following, community leaders, traditional leaders, religious leaders, must be consulted, Mr. President, predominantly by yourself. We know we've got leaders in our country from the faith-based sector which are leading people in numbers. For example, Unyazi Lwezulu from Amanazareta, Prophet Uzuleze from the Revelation Spiritual Home, Apostle Nongunga from TACC, and many other leaders. Whilst watching one of the videos whereby people were looting, one of the persons says there, I am not going to partake in this, because if Inkosi Unyazi were to see what I'm doing, that would not sit right with him. Our people in our country have got such huge respect for religious leaders. Therefore, it cannot be that during this time, religious services or religious operations have been completely halted. Religious leaders have got moral authority. They are the ones that can speak with a voice of reason to the people. Therefore, I want to implore you, Mr. President, please speak to the leaders I've mentioned above. Please allow the religious space to operate in terms of preaching peace, preaching stability and restraint during this time. The last thing that also needs your attention, it is the taxi violence that is happening in Cape Town. It has the same impact that what are seeing in the other areas. Therefore, it cannot be that we are only focusing or what is only seen as a problem. It is what is happening in the other areas. Whereas the taxi violence that has already claimed more than 70 lives only in the Western Cape is left unabated. There needs to be a proper plan to deal with that at the same time. And what is of also concern is that there are these vigilante groups that have positioned themselves to be protectors of whatever infrastructure or shops that they have in their respective areas. What we're seeing with those vigilante groups is that they are operating under the guise of protecting the infrastructure, but they are targeting poor black people. We know that there are some areas now in KZN or in Durban whereby just merely by being black in a particular area, you are already assumed to be a criminal. You are already assumed to be a looter. Therefore, what you are met is you are not arrested. Those vigilante groups there, they are shooting people, they are beating people, in some cases they are arresting people. Out of the 70 people that are lost, there needs to be an account as to how many people have been killed by these vigilante groups. In some videos, we are seeing that these vigilante groups are working hand with the police. Therefore, we can never accept, Mr. President, that the police will work hand in hand with the vigilante groups, which are Asian or white, under the guise of protecting the infrastructure, and they are going to attack or kill poor black people. It cannot be that that is what we are witnessing in our country. We can't allow a case whereby merely by being black, you are immediately assumed to be a criminal. Now, I want to repeat, Mr. President, let us not be overly, we cannot be led to be saying force is the only solution to the problem. We saw what force did in Marikana. We saw what force did with Collins Khoza. Hence, I want to stress the issue of making sure that dialogue must be the immediate answer. Dialogue must be the one thing that South Africans must witness from this type of leadership. The last thing, Mr. President, I want to read a tweet that was made by one of the senior counsels in our country, where he says, when taxi owners and drivers turn security guards, soldiers turn police, police turn tail, residents turn to their firearms, looters turn freedom fighters, journalists turn presidential spokesmen and women, and the president turns ethnic, you have a leadership vacuum. That is the root of the problems that we are facing now. And with these problems, Mr. President, I want to propose that there needs to be a discussion as well about the early elections, because we cannot coexist with these failures of the ANC that are spilling over to our country and causing great instability to our country. We know that other leaders of political parties that are in this platform have also called for a case whereby there must be a dissolution of the government. Therefore, if we are genuine about this, there needs to be also those discussions about the early elections, because clearly, Mr. President, ANC and the country in this current situation cannot coexist, because the ANC internal battles are spilling over to our country, and the country has been a casualty. Thank you.
Honorable Lekota, are you